a couple of months, and a lot has happened actually. Quite a lot has happened. The car is driving better than ever. In fact, it is near perfect. There's only tiny little issues to be resolved if I can at all. Probably the biggest change since the last update is I discovered my evap or fuel tank pressure sensor was wired wrong, probably from factory, and that's what's collapsed my fuel tanks, because the ground and signal cables were swapped, and by pure bad luck, when you do that, it still produces a signal, and that signal that it produces out of the ground pin is actually within valid range, so it doesn't throw a code. It just reports 1 psi of pressure in the tanks at all times. And of course, one of the tests that this car does to make sure that the tanks are sealed is it does a leak test, and as part of that it closes the vent valve, the thing that lets air in or out of the tanks, and then activates purge for a little while, the thing that draws a vacuum on the tanks via the intake. And then it's supposed to wait until the pressure drops a certain amount and then go, cool, there's no leak, and stop doing that. Because my pressure sensor only ever reported that it was 1 psi of pressure, we never hit vacuum. And so the car would just sit there testing the tanks forever, basically. So it was drawing manifold vacuum on the fuel tanks all the time. Which kind of explains why my tanks are like they are. What else has happened since then? The outer lens on the pre-LP Gallardos likes to fall off. Mine was loose when I got the car. I attempted to stick it back using super glue. That was a mistake. Super glue just hazed the lens completely. So I took it off and attempted to re-glue it with a different kind of glue. I can't remember what it was. And I thought, hey, I'll make a cure faster, so I'll stick it in the oven at 50 degrees. But I didn't preheat the oven, so it lasted full power until it got 50 degrees, which the radiant heat melted the lens and slightly warped it. And then, at some point, I was taking the right housing out, tail light housing, to do something. I can't remember what, I think check a bulb. And I dropped it, and it cracked the lens. This is very sad. So yes, if you look at the price of tail lights, these cars, they're $2,000 to $3,000 depending on the side and what you want. So I went down a months-long rabbit hole of 3D modeling my own lenses, and I've been working with the manufacturer over in China to get that done. There are a couple of iterations, and they're not the ones that I've received so far haven't been perfect, but they've been workable. But hopefully the next batch will be actually completely good and good to sell. But as they are, after I do my things I need to do to them, you can hardly tell that they are not OEM lenses. And the other big news is I sold the RS3. So yeah, bye bye RS3, bye bye forever. The obvious question is, what did I replace it with? The RS3 was always my car, the Skoda was my wife's car, and this was my toy, basically. I thought that was a bit unfair for me to have a, silly toy as a car, and my wife to have, her 8-year-old Skoda. So instead of replacing the RS3 with another car for me, we replaced it with a car for her. Like, where are you going to get that from? You're going to get that from nothing. Anywhere near the price range. Nowhere near. So obviously when it came to getting my wife a car, I wanted something vibey, because the vibes this has is just through the roof. It's crazy. You cannot take the numbers of this car and understand how it feels to drive around it. It's just so nice. low sitting position. It just looks awesome. It just feels great. The steering is great. So I would have liked to get something similar to that for my wife, just so that on the daily, I can get a little taste of the feel of being a supercar. I want it to have supercar-like vibes. I want it to handle supercar-like. I want it to look supercar-like. I want it to be in budget. And I want it to be reliable, preferably with a warranty. Oh look, that ticks every single box.